My name is Miss Callie G. I am an Episcopalian Christian, a gay person, non-binary, a drag queen, the holder of an English degree, and most importantly for today, I am president of a nonprofit called Reading Time with the Queens. Today, I am going to tell you a story. This is the story of how religion has blessed and cursed Reading Time with the Queens time and again. Fitting, I think, to tell a story because it's all about telling stories. In fact, Reading Time with the Queen's mission is to have drag performers read stories that will teach us how to accept and love ourselves and others. I am the president of Reading Time with the Queens, but I am not alone. I currently run the program with several other amazing people. I'm just curious, with a raise of hands, who here has some idea of what a drag story time is? Okay, most everybody. Okay, cool. So we have some cultural reference for this. I started Reading Time with the Queens with this person, Zay. Back then, we were Miss Callie and Miss Zay, two Southeast Idaho Gay Pride pageant title holders. Along with Miss Marina, we performed the first Reading Time with the Queens at our public library in Pocatello, Idaho. This was our attempt at community service. I particularly felt strongly about doing something to improve our community as local title holders. Until we created Reading Time, most of our activities had been about fundraising for the next pageant. It felt selfish to me, and frankly, I found that the idea of holding a title for the purpose of boasting alone to be a grotesque misuse of our community's funds and energies. Pocatello is a small town in a conservative region, but we boast the only gay bar in 150 miles. We have resources, but not many, and not many are family friendly. What if we could use our talents to create the program that Zay and I needed when we were kids? And how cool would it be if we took the model that was being used in big cities by Drag Story Hour and used it in our relatively small town? And how extra amazing would it be if we could add sign language and deaf inclusion to that original model? That is the start of the story. And as I tell you the story, I'm going to highlight two things. I am going to provide some information about how our program runs itself. Reading Time is a secular program, but because I work on it and because we live in a predominantly conservative Christian LDS area, there are aspects of spirituality that inform our decisions. So the second thing I'm going to do is highlight moments where spirituality or religion has touched Reading Time, for better or worse. We'll start with a fun example. The format that we used for our first program is more or less the same format I have come back to for every program since. At this point in my life, I'd been attending an Episcopal church for about 2 years. And figuring out how to structure the program, I decided to go with what I knew. A format I still to this day joke as being the Episcopalian method. Simply put, the format is such: opening hymn, collect, lesson, response, lesson, response. The collect, you'll note, is where we learn American Sign Language. And it's in theme. This is taught by Zay, who is deaf. It is not a revolutionary model, but I like thinking about it like this because it invites me to think about how every element of the program is commenting on the others. This also tickles the part of my brain that got a BA in English because I was constantly comparing and contrasting texts in my classes at university. That leads me to another point I'd like to highlight. At our very first ever program, one of my professors, Dr. Amanda Zink, invited me to think about ways in which our program could expand outside the confines of queer identity. She said, you know, you don't have to make it the same if you do it again. It doesn't have to be about drag queens or LGBTQ books every time. You can use it as a platform to feature other topics or cultures as well. This was by far the most instrumental piece of advice that I've ever received about reading time. When I was working with Zay to pick out those first books, I remember feeling like I had to pick queer narratives only, as if that was the only thing that I, a drag queen, would be allowed to talk about. Even back then, we weren't starved for children's books about queerness. But when someone that I respected gave me permission to read narratives and teach outside of a queer bubble, that was liberating. Lessons I learned. Not everything in your program has to be about queerness. Have programs where it's front and center and others where queerness is only a component. Don't limit your program. Also, not everyone in your program has to be a drag queen. There are many community members your attendees deserve to meet. Bring them to the table as well.